topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, good afternoon. Bill Martinez here. Great to have you along with us, sharing a part of your day. For more info on the show, you can check it out, BillMartinezShow.com. Our guest is missing in action. I'll tell you, this is the nature of a live show. This happens very rarely, but this time has happened. I'm not sure exactly what has happened with him, but meanwhile, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown and a summary of what we were going to talk about, because you may have seen it in the synopsis. The guest's name is Jerry Willbur. He's an author. He had an idea back in 2013 about this idea of what would happen if politicians couldn't lie. Think about that. And you think, well, that's kind of a novel thought, and maybe that has crossed your mind. You wonder if politicians just couldn't help themselves, and if they could just be forthright, right? Dr. Billy Graham said one time about politicians, he says, when asked if they were lying, he says, well, it's not when they touch their ear or when they run their hand over their hair or anything like that. He says, when their lips move. So everybody has kind of held on to that idea. And certainly whether or not they just flat out lie or obfuscate or deflect, it's on full display, because even this afternoon and throughout the day, we've been watching, the interview, or the, some might say the interrogation of Christopher Wray on the FBI, where we've got the oversight committee is, asking questions, want to find out what is going on, with the FBI. Why is it that they seem to have abandoned their true mission of a equal justice under the law? And, and you hear Christopher Wray, you've also seen other politicians or maybe even FBI officials come on, and they, in a sense, kind of almost take the Fifth Amendment, right? And they can't really give you a straight answer. In their way of using the Fifth Amendment, that they can't say anything that's going to incriminate them. They have that card that says, I cannot comment on an investigation that's currently pending, right? So and you just frustrate. I imagine, if you're the one asking questions, you're frustrated. Well, we're watching and we're frustrated because we're going, what's going on? What's happening with this government that's supposed to be a government of, for, and by the people? Okay. It seems to be up for and by the elites, or maybe the deep state, but not us, we the people. And this is the America that we have today, and it continues to frustrate us, especially when you realize we're $32 trillion in debt. We're paying for this. Can you believe it? We're actually paying. Well, actually, it's not just us, because I think we're paying for it. Our kids are paying for it, and I think our grandkids. And we're starting now to get into that next layer at 32 trillion, where even our great-great-grandkids, they're not even born yet, and we're writing a check on their back. How disgusting is that? But, we're not supposed to ask questions. The elites are running the asylum here, and they're in control, and, hey, we get to pay for it. Aren't they happy? Well, Jerry Willbur, I don't know if it was a 3:00 in the morning idea that hit him in 2013, but questions said, well, what happens? What's going on with this country? Are we all being run? Is this country being run by psychopaths? And, and you might chuckle and laugh about it, but when you consider, the definition of a psychopath, there might be psychopaths there. So don't you dare insult me, but anyway, so he played with the idea and developed this concept of, what if? And, what if America is being run by psychopaths? And, as I say, you first think, well, that's kind of a jaded statement here. And, but hey, what if it's true? As you start to chew on it, you start thinking, well, maybe he's not that far off. That's what we love about satire. Satire kind of pokes fun at the truth, and you have to kind of, you laugh at it to kind of be disarmed a little bit, so you don't get too frustrated and throw a brick through the TV set. So you just you kind of chew on this for a minute and think, okay, wow, there might be a point to this. And of course, he writes this book, starts the first rendition, The True Blue Revolution. He writes in 2013 in anticipation of the 2016 election. So as this starts to come about and the things he's writing, of course, this is satire, okay? This isn't, it's almost novelesque, you could say. And as things are evolving and developing, remember all the craziness that we had going in 2015, 2016. There was no way that Donald Trump was going to be a serious candidate. Ann Coulter was laughed off the stage. Other people just, you're an idiot. There's no way that Donald Trump's going to be a serious candidate. And then he continued to, have a following. You saw what was going on at his campaign, his rallies. Thousands of people would show up. And they're thinking, whoa, what is happening here? But no, there's no way. The elites thought there was no way possible that Hillary Clinton was going to lose to somebody that didn't have any kind of political experience, especially like Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump's a celebrity. He's a TV show host and that sort of thing. And, big business in Manhattan and all this stuff. Politicians go to him. They kiss his ring. They're asking for money. But now him to be president, you got to be, no, it's not real. Hillary Clinton's got to be the one. She's going to break the glass ceiling. And meanwhile, investigations start coming about. She's involved in an administration, as we're starting to realize more and more, it's probably very corrupt. Joe Biden, John Kerry, herself. I mean, let me remind you about Benghazi. Losing 4 American citizens, and her and the president of the United States at the time said it was all about a video. We found out it wasn't about a video. And I think that there's a lot more that was hidden in there that we may never know. We know that Hillary Clinton did not adhere to, principles, specific mandated principles, that you didn't use a private server for government business. We found out later, subsequently, she was using a private server. There were something like 30,000 emails that she conveniently erased. Remember, she kind of joked about it. Like all the Democrats always have a sense of humor whenever they're caught, right? Whether it's Harry Reid, who's lying about John Kerry, he just kind of smirks and goes, well, he didn't get elected president, right? Well, in her case, she's laughing and smirking because, what do you mean? What did I just wipe it, etch a sketch it? What did I do? Did I just, of course, she used bleach bit, supposedly, hammered, cell phones, devices that were part of investigation. I mean, easily it's obstruction. But, thank God we had guys like James Comey who could come on and tell us that, no reasonable prosecutor, after all these offenses. I remember he spent all this time in front of the camera talking about all these offenses that she had done. And you're thinking, oh my God, Trump is right. She is going to go to jail. No. And what happens is that, he ends up this setup of how you think, okay, wow, she's going to end up going to jail. He goes, well, Comey says no reasonable prosecutor would take up the case, right? That's what's going on. So it's been pretty nuts and novel to say the least as to what happened there. And of course, subsequently, we see what's happening with our Justice Department. That if you're a Republican or if you're a mom, God forbid you're a mom and you want to protect your kid, you're a domestic terrorist, and they're coming after you in full force, right? So that's what seems to be going on. Well, I understand now our guest has joined us. Jerry, welcome to the show. I was kind of giving a roundup of what was going on leading into the 2016 election and how you started your book, with this idea. Maybe you woke up at 3:00 in the morning and said, hey, what if politicians couldn't lie? And then that just kind of took a life of its own. And then come 2016 and everybody says, wow, this Jerry Willbur, he's a genius. I mean, he's a prophet. He knows what's going on, right?
Yeah. Well, it was quite a coincidence, but there was hints, of course, way back when. But yeah, by 2016, became quite evident that something was going on. And as you've recounted, you're not supposed to analyze people from a distance, is what they tell you. Even though they did it to Trump,
right?
Try to get him on a 25th Amendment. But I guess if you're Republican or conservative, you're not supposed to do that. So just looking at what's going on, I think, yes, it's become eerily prophetic. As the book recounts about a digital candidate, everybody at the time, matter of fact, when they first reviewed it, said, this is impossible. That'll never happen. And of course, we saw a basement campaign, which I understand we could probably be in setting for another one where he doesn't appear anywhere before any groups. Because if he does, there's only 20 people, 30 people show up versus 20 or 30,000 for the other candidate. Exactly. So, it's there's a lot of things happening that are indicating that what I wrote as a political satire is now becoming looks like a political reality. If you consider what psychopaths really are and what they look like, you've got a pretty good definition going on right now. They can lie without a conscience, as you were talking about. They can sit up there and just lie. It's called the dark triad. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but psychopathy, which is being able to lie, having lack of empathy, and just lie with a straight face. In fact, often lie when the truth might serve them better. And then the second one is psychopathy. The second one is narcissism. And that's where, just total focus on self over anyone else. And then the third one is Machiavellianism, and that's called the psychologists and psychiatrists call it the dark triad. And that's the manipulation. So we see that. And some of that's probably necessary in our political system, which maybe, to paraphrase Mark Twain, suppose he didn't really say this, but he gets credit for it. Political systems or politicians in diapers are similar in one way, that they both need to be changed on a regular basis. And I think we've got a great political system, so I don't think it's that. It's the politicians that are disrupting it. So, yes.
Well, and the thing is, Jerry, when it's out of order, I mean, it really isn't consistent with the Constitution. The Constitution was an idea, an ideal. Okay.
Yes.
And our founding fathers knew that being human, we weren't going to live up to the Constitution any more than we were going to be able to live up to the 10 Commandments. But it's there as a standard so that you could measure how you're doing and to kind of self-correct, because a lot about the Constitution was self-responsibility, because you couldn't have a standing police force big enough to manage everybody and, their potential recklessness, could you?
No, exactly right. And, a lot of people don't realize that they drew upon Isaiah 33:22 right out of scriptures to balance power. And I think this is a critical point about our Constitution. It's perfectly designed. Isaiah 33:22 says, "The Lord is our judge, our lawgiver, and our king. He will come for us and save us." Well, people say, what's that got to do with the Constitution? That's the balance of powers.
Yes.
And the reason they put that in there was to help protect us. Those both protect us from the tyrant, but also the government from the tyranny of the public. Also, it's a balance of powers. And what we're seeing today now, because psychopaths, it's one of the definitions of them, are driven by power, dominance, and control. And man, if you look at that, you think, whoo. And so they were coming against the Constitution. It's one of the reasons why they're attacking God so often, because they know that the Constitution was based upon biblical principles.
Exactly.
And that's and it's a beautiful, I think it's a model that was provided for us. I really think God directed. And you go back and study the history of the people that wrote the Constitution, and you realize that, my goodness, there's so many things could have gone wrong that we wouldn't have that document. And yet so many things coincidentally just went right. So that we have this fantastic document that's a balance of power.
Right.
So the way it works supposedly is that each side balances the other one out. But as you can see, we're getting really out of balance. And
there's not there. So, you're not having checks. If you don't have checks, you don't have balance. And so
that's right.
The power and control of these psychopaths have taken over in such a way that they've mollified, because the whole issue of checks and balances is based on accountability, and there's no accountability.
Oh, yes.
So it's imploded on itself, basically, is where we are right now, right?
Yes, and the good news is I think we can bring that back, but that's why I really appreciate you having me on and talking about the many things that you do talk about on your website and on your TV show, because the people need to be aware. I always say, are they aware and do they care? I have done a lot of counseling, which is why I got interested in psychopaths in the first place, because they were almost immune to counseling. And are they aware and do they care? And I think people are now getting aware.
Yes.
I was just watching a lot of the reaction to the moms that are stepping up and fighting for their children. They're aware now, they care. And I think once people are aware and they care, then America has a tradition of really stepping forward. We maybe got a little comfortable in what God has given us in this great country and the Constitution, Declaration, Bill of Rights. But I think people now are going, my goodness, this is a threat. Will it be there for my children?
Right.
And, in Isaiah 5:20. Yeah. Go ahead.
Anyway, real quick, I'm sorry to interject here, but you touched on something, and that is that,
sure.
See, the infrastructure that God established from the very beginning. You see, and we were just talking about this morning, Jerry. It's interesting you brought it up, because I wanted to remind the audience that if you go back to the very beginning, God was there. God's hand was upon this country. And even before then, even before the pilgrims came, the pilgrims were praying. They were seeking God, saying, give us a place. Can you give us a place? And God directed the pilgrims to come here, to come to America, to establish and to develop this American idea that it was God ordained, it was God inspired. I mean, even, go down the line, George Washington, Winthrop, any of the early leaders would all testify that it wasn't by their hand. It wasn't them. It was by divine providence. And time again, as you cite, Jerry, there were miracles that happened that allowed us to be here some 247 years later.
We used to teach that in school. The basic readers we had, George Washington recounted that when he was the only officer to survive a defeat in the French and Indian War, and when he got out of the battle, he actually shook out his wig and bullets fell out in his coat, and they fell out. And there was Native American witnesses that even said, we purposely tried to kill all the officers. And there was one big one that we could not kill. And you can say, well, he was lucky. I go, no, even then, and you're right, all the way back, even before in history, you can see that, God has had his hand on driving this country, and I think still does. And I think he still influences people and is trying to influence us, and we still have choice. And we need to choose to be aware and care and get out there and do things.
Yeah, and my other point on that, Jerry, is that, see, it is God who established the infrastructure for America. We may have been able to capture it and write it down in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution, which reinforces the system that God established. In the same way that when God created the heavens and the earth, there is a system, there is an infrastructure to produce a specific end product. That's the way the way God works, right? And he's done that. Okay, go ahead.
No, right. And in the center of the garden, he placed choice. People say choice. Yeah, the tree. We had a choice. Yeah. And say, why is that important? Well, we have a choice today. Are we going to react and try to protect what God has given us? Are we going to make a choice to do the right decisions? Or are we going to follow people? I was starting to quote Isaiah 5:20. It says, watch for those who call good evil and evil good.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right, and right for lightness, and and who take darkness for lightness, and who put bitter before sweet. And right there it tells us we have to be on guard. We have to watch, and we have to realize that he'll do everything he can, but it still ends up being a matter of choice. In the center of the garden, if I had a tree like that in my garden, I had to put it if I had to have it in the garden, it'd be behind barbed wire in the corner. Because I have very inquisitive kids and grandkids.
Right.
Said he put it right in the center of the garden because That's choice.
Yes.
And so we have a choice today. So that's what the book's about. The first one and the second one too is about the same thing. So yeah.
Well, Jerry, see, because God is not only about love, but He's about freedom. You can't have liberty without choice, right?
That's right. And unfortunately,
and when we live that highest ideal of our humanity as best we can this side of heaven, we are able to, come close to the divine and approximate the divine, not by our own self-assessment. It's that we get to appreciate and notice it for a moment, and you think, could it always be this way? Why can't it always be this way?
Yes, and it's people don't realize in history, and I love to read history. So I got, like you, I have many interests, and never in history has there been two things happened: a centrifugation, if you could do it, or in one place, so much power in one place.
Yeah.
After Bretton Woods, after World War II, people don't realize we came together in Bretton Woods. The United States at that time had the only dominant army, the only dominant navy, the only dominant economy, and we could have set up a world empire.
Yeah.
Now, whether it would have lasted, whether it would have been smart or not. Instead, and I believe, again, God put his hand in and said, no, let's try something different. And for the last 70 years, things actually have gone as good as you could possibly expect as far as people coming out of poverty, other than having to fight off the Soviet Union, peace. And now all of a sudden it's crumbling. And why is it crumbling? And it's because through some choices that have been made, we've kind of lost our way. And when I emphasize that about power, dominance, and control, that's why there's so many psychopaths in Washington, D.C., coming back to what we were talking about. Because never before in history has so much power been accumulated in one place. And so
it is
no wonder
it is. It's a scary thing, but we observe that, and you and I, we're like watchmen, and we're warning the rest of the country. This is what's going on. This isn't new. Just like you quoted Isaiah 5, that there will be that time when good's evil, evil is good, and sweet is sour, sour is sweet. I mean, we're living in that era right now. So the warnings that God has given us over the time are being demonstrated to us. So now what is our call? What are we going to do? Are we going to continue to ignore it, or are we going to be like the nation of Nineveh that heard the word of God and realized, my God, we're toast. We better do something about it and turn back to him. If not, we're going to be a mess. And then, of course, that led to a 100-year revival, 100-year where they could turn around and things calmed down.
To non-Jewish people, by the way, to the world, by the way. Those are not Jewish people. Those are some pretty bad characters.
Yeah, right.
So, no, I agree. And it's, I think we're maybe not in the toaster yet, but we're close to it. And I think that's where we need to step our feet down and say, there's a Hebrew word that I really love, a name. It's one of the names of God, is Shamar.
Yes.
And if you're any Jewish friends listening, they would know what Shomer Israel means. That means the watchman over Israel, the protector, the sentinel. And it's used in the New Testament also, a number of different places, a little bit different word, but Shamar. And these are people that are willing to step up and say, I'm going to put things at risk, and I'm going to take the flak, and I'm going to be a watchman.
Right.
And that's the word Shamar. And
and when that word is on you, Jerry, guess what? You don't have a choice. Well, you do. You have a choice. You either are the watchman, and you're the watchman, and then you're responsible for the blood of the people to a point, for warning them. If you don't warn them, and the Shamar mantle is upon you, then the blood is on you.
Yes, and it's the Shamar should be upon anyone who is a believer.
Yes.
My favorite thing is to ask people why. When I consult with organizations, I'll say, well, what's your compelling why? And the compelling why in Scripture is not, build a church or do this. The compelling why in Scripture says, for he came to save and rescue the lost. Lost children out there. That's our compelling why, to save our life, and hopefully to save our country before it's lost, because people don't realize where most of the missionaries in the past come from. Here in America.
Exactly.
You mentioned the pilgrims.
Jerry, before we go there, Jerry,
yeah,
we're going to have to go to break. Let's go to break. We'll pick it up from there.
No problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Jerry Willbur and the True Blue Revolution. Stay with us. We've got more after this.
Thank you.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist and ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
President Biden recently released a massive $6 trillion budget, the largest budget in U.S. history. And guess who pays the bill? That's right, you, the American taxpayer. American citizens and business owners will be paying more taxes. That's a fact. And if you owe back taxes, they will be coming after you to collect payments. In fact, President Biden also hired thousands more IRS agents to go after you. If you got a letter from the IRS and you know you owe back taxes or you haven't filed in years, don't put your head in the sand. Call us today. We've saved our customers millions of tax dollars. One quick, free phone call will show you how we can reduce your past tax bill and save you thousands. Guaranteed, or you pay nothing. Call now.
800-932-1597. 800-932-1597. That's 800-932-1597. Paid for by the Tax Helpline. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
Hey, we're back with you. I'm Bill Martinez. For more information on the show, you can check it out, BillMartinezShow.com. And while you're there, by the way, you will see an opportunity for you to participate in our listener-supported campaign for truth and liberty. And I got to thank you for those of you that have been doing that. In fact, somebody sent me an email and said, Bill, I need a tax deduction. You know, what can I do? Can I donate to your show and have a tax? Exactly. You're welcome to donate to the show here. It's a tax deductible donation. We're partnering with a nonprofit entity under Hill of Hope. It's a 501c3 entity. And so when you click on the donate button, you'll see Hill of Hope. You can donate there, and look, it's up to you. You want to pay the government, you can do that. You can support the cause here, what we're doing on the show, and we thank you for doing that. And anything that God so puts on your heart to support the cause for our pursuit, our commitment to pursue the truth, no matter where it leads, is much appreciated. Thank you so much for being on the team here with us. Jerry Willbur continues with us, and we're talking about the True Blue Revolution. And Jerry, I had to cut you off there for just a moment, so I don't know if you can remember the thoughts that you were on, but I want to give you the opportunity to, to bring that back into focus.
Well, I think what we're both agreeing on is that this doesn't happen by chance.
Yes.
That our United States, especially the Constitution, and you can go all the way back, by the way. And my second book, I recount this. That's called "The Rise of the True Blue Rebellion," follows on the True Blue Revolution, and it goes back and traces back in history. And you go all the way back to why certain things happened and the odds against them happening. And you can see that Western civilization, Judeo-Christianity, basically,
right,
and Western civilization was not by chance. I believe it was put there because of the ideals and, of course, based upon Scripture. And so you go all the way back, and then you come to the United States. And as you pointed out with the Pilgrims, if you look at the United States, it's unbelievably how we have been blessed, what we call geopolitically. A lot of people don't realize this. The United States is truly the land of promise. More navigable rivers than all the rest of the world combined, more natural ports than all the rest of the world combined, more farmland to grow. So, I mean, we have everything. God put everything here that we need. And you can go back and argue about history. And some people say, well, then why did God allow this? No, it's choice. We could have done things differently. But the point is, this is still God's promised land. This is still the place in the Constitution, Declaration, Bill of Rights. We should be an example for the rest of the world. And we were.
And I think in some cases we are. You're exactly right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so my main concerns going forward are that we step forward. We realize we have a responsibility. We comment about the word shamar or shomer over Israel, but shamar over America. And I think that's our job, watchmen. And we need to not just watch, but as James says, be doers of the word, not just hearers of the word.
Right.
And so we've got to get ourselves together. And there's a lot of us, like yourself and myself out there. Now, we may not be covered often in the mainstream media, but we're trying to push things forward and say, we need to number one, understand what we have been given, and now understand the accountability, which you mentioned earlier, and responsibility that we have to protect us and guide us and direct us. And as you know, many times in the Old Testament, the children walked away, but then God always said, I'm still here. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And so I don't want to be negative at all, but we have some things happening right now. The artificial intelligence that's coming in. We have a choice. We need to either get involved, or we can put our hands up. I don't want to get involved. No, that's too technical. I don't know if you've been watching. I'm sure you've been watching the news lately, but I think it's been underplayed a little bit. The unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Yes,
UAPs.
exactly. Yeah, right.
People say, well, what's that got to do? Well, if you want proof that there's psychopaths in charge, how come there's been this massive cover-up that now Senator Rubio is coming out and talking about? So there's been a massive cover-up. There just recently was one of the top clearance U.S. officials. David Rush came forth and said, had to go on Australian TV, by the way, to be able to get heard. He said, there are UAPs, and they are non-human intelligences. You say, why do I bring this up? With my second book, I hate to keep putting a plug in for the book, but the second one is called The Rise of the True Blue Rebellion. That's the second one. It follows on the True Blue Rebellion. Actually talks about this UAP thing, because I think as Christians, as believers, we need to be aware of this. Because one of the worries that people have is, well, what would happen if there truly was other non-human intelligence? They go, well, Christians should be concerned about that. Why is that? The Bible talks all about non-human intelligences.
Exactly.
Say what? Angels, demons, and people need to step forth and say, and they need the Lord too. And so I think we need to be prepared for this. And I know my belief is, and I talk about this in both books, is the intricately fine-tuned universe, intricately fine-tuned. Everything had to be just right. Intricately fine-tuned solar system and intricately fine-tuned Earth. There was a book written by two agnostics up in University of Washington called Rare Earth that talked about just how just right this world is, how just right this universe is.
Exactly.
So people say, well, what do you think is going to happen with suddenly the UAPs end up being non-human intelligence? I think that they're going to come forth and not be atheistic. They're going to say, hey, there's an intricately just right universe out here, and we're here too. And we're
exactly.
Here. So,
yeah, the reason we're here is because he's there.
That's right. And so I think there's a lot of things coming forward. I think a lot of people say, my goodness, I've been hit by so much already. And I go, well, wait a minute. The scriptures never said life is going to be easy. It wasn't said that. It said there's peace. And if we realize that we're going about God's work, I call him my perfect partner. He's my perfect partner. Yeah. So what I need to do, whether it's this broadcast or anything else, do the best that I can. The crazy little books, do the best that I can. They're definitely not works by Hemingway or some great author, but they get points across. It's a lot of what we're talking about right now. So we have a lot of challenges coming.
And like you say, Jerry, I mean, the opportunity here, with guests such as yourself and others that we have these discussions, I keep admonishing our audience that it's up to them to own their own knowledge. Don't just take it from us. I mean, hopefully we're motivating you to go deeper and check it out for yourself. I mean, maybe you've been ignoring some of the, scant reports about UAPs. And then the next time you see it and you go, oh, wow, Bill and Jerry were right. It's this thing is definitely here. And so what is going on? But the deal is, again, in terms of having a sense of peace and shalom about all this, is that he who is faithful, he's the one that's designed this. I mean, people can talk about the World Economic Forum and George Soros and get nervous about all these power people supposedly here on this plane, but don't ignore God, because this is his popcorn stand. This belongs to him. And he
has an own universe and we don't.
Yes, exactly. That's it. So the rest of this is, when people want to talk about certain things, like, this whole green agenda situation, I used to say, quite satirically that I could imagine the conversation in heaven when all of a sudden heaven hears what Al Gore is preaching down on earth, and God calls Peter to account and says, hey, didn't I tell you to fix that?
Yes. Yeah. It's amazing what's going on. And that's why I think, again, we need to be right. We need to be constantly open and learning. Someone said, well, what if there are non-human intelligences? I said, well, then we're going to witness to them. And I wouldn't be surprised they come back and said, we heard that story too.
Right. Exactly.
And I just think it's just going to be a confirmation, because I don't think that, as I look back, and part of my background, I don't want to go too much of my background, but I had to have quite a bit of statistics to get the degree that I have. And I called the course Sadistics, okay? Because it was one of the toughest ones. And yet it's one that I learned a lot more from, to look at things.
Exactly.
And look at what are the odds of certain things. And my goodness, I mean, there's some great quotes about, if you want to believe in evolution, you got to believe that a tornado hitting a junkyard could build a fully functioning Boeing 747. No, it didn't happen by chance. And we've got computers now that can analyze this and go, there's no way that could have happened. You look at other things like DNA, and people go, well, I don't want to talk about DNA. No, we need to know about these things. We don't have to be DNA scientists. But if we look at that, we find out, it's amazing. DNA is a code.
Yes.
It's not a symbol. Of wind could come in and make a symbol, but a code has meaning.
That's
and
right.
Here's all of a sudden this massive thing, and it'd be like someone said, it'd be like if you blew up a alphabet soup factory and suddenly found the complete works of Shakespeare. I prefer to find the gospel, but whatever. So that's the odds of this happening by chance. How by chance could this tremendous library that we're still exploring come to be found? There's a hate to put a plug in.
Well, Jerry, I'll tell you what, we got to go to break real quick. Let's pick it up from there. We've got more from Jerry Willbur. We're talking the True Blue Revolution right here.
That's right.
The FDA issued an import alert for U.S. Customs authorities to detain illegal, disposable, flavored nicotine e-cigarettes from foreign countries, including China. Rich Marianos is a former assistant director for the ATF, now with Georgetown University.
These disposable e-cigarettes have become a real problem. It's encouraging to see the FDA act at the border, but our kids need them to take the next steps and remove these foreign disposables from the store shelves. They have the authority, and now it's time to act.
Sponsored by the Border Security Alliance.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Deutsch, and if you or your business owe money to the IRS, I've got great news for you. Tax laws have changed. Billions of dollars are earmarked for IRS Fresh Start programs. And if you qualify, you can literally save tens of thousands of dollars. Listen, I know what you're going through. Call me if you want to speak with a tax attorney or tax professional for free.
800-247-1498. That's 800-247-1498.
Attention timeshare owners. Tired of the financial stress? Were you misled by the salesperson? Don't or can't use your timeshare anymore? If any of these apply to you, then you may qualify for timeshare cancellation and get the relief you need now. Timeshare Defense Attorneys is the #1 affordable fixed fee legal solution in the country with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. That's certainly better than my grades. They even offer a 100% client satisfaction guarantee. Let one of their experienced lawyers evaluate your case and explain the process. If they take you as a client, they'll work on your case until it's resolved in your favor. Guaranteed. Expect great service and a close working relationship with your lawyer, keeping you informed every step of the way, protecting your rights, interests, and even your credit. It's that simple. Even a kid like me could understand it. The consultation is free. Call today.
800-296-1332. 800-296-1332. That's 800-296-1332.
Would you like to hear better?
Well, we're back with you, America. Bill Martinez here, and Jerry Willbur continues with us as we're talking about the True Blue Revolution. Jerry, we're going to have maybe about 7-8 minutes here, and I want to give you the time that you need to kind of summarize and give people what the key takeaways again should be. Not only from your book, but how it aligns with where we are in America today and where we're going.
Yes, I exactly what we were talking about as far as, are you aware and do you care? And it's a challenge because what happens is basically in the book, the psychopaths are ready to take over. This was written in 2013. Well, what's amazing now is one of the reasons why they're really trying to take over because they've been able to hide in the past. And now, because of advances in brain scanning, we can actually identify psychopaths. Matter of fact, somebody just mentioned recently, well, maybe one of the things that Trump should do if he gets back in office is make everybody take a lie detector test. And I said, the only problem with that is that they're able to lie so skillfully, but unless we made big advances in lie detectors, we can't detect who they are. But I think the big thing is to watch and hold accountable our politicians. And by the way, both parties, it's easy for us to say, oh, Democrat or Republican.
Oh, yeah, no, this isn't
both parties because that's
exactly.
It's not a party thing. It's a person thing. And unfortunately, we have vested so much power in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we got to remember what it's all about. It's about America, this great American idea. If you subordinate that to a party, then you violated the principles and you're not going to get what you expect. You've actually put a wrench in the system.
Yes, right. A system that has worked 250 years basically has worked well on and off. We've had some difficulties in times, as any historian will tell you, but back on target. And now we're getting off target again, and we need to get back on target. And so, the premise in the book, and a lot of people laugh about it, is that what they do is they give a drug to a possible candidate so that he cannot lie. With the idea being, if we had a politician that could not lie, if he lies, he dies. Yeah. And he has to tell the truth. Well, unfortunately, and I don't mean for the book to be a little cynical, but it actually kind of comes back and kind of hurts him a little bit because interviewers start asking him some very difficult questions and he can't lie. And but and that's why there's a second book.
So he runs for a bunker. He hides from everybody so he didn't have to answer questions.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I didn't think about that. Oh my goodness, that's just true blue Biden. No, I don't think so.
Right.
But I don't think that's why he's hiding. But the whole point is about to summarize both books. It's accountability, and that we will be held responsible. Now, you and I know that. We can quote Matthew 5:22 that Jesus is going to be the judge, and a lot of interesting research on near-death experiences, by the way, by a guy named John Burke. Imagine Heaven. Tremendous book. I don't know if you've read that or not.
Yes,
he goes and does looks at all the near-death experiences across the world, and with blind people and deaf people and kids as young as 3 years old. And he says, no matter where they are, any culture, the near-death experience does not reflect other religions. It reflects what we believe. And if there's a man in white comes and he gives them a life review, and it's not negative because he's very unconditional loving. They can sense that he loves them, but oh my gosh, I looked at my life. Right. And I think each one of us sort of needs to go and say, okay, before that ultimate job review, I need to have a life review. Yeah, what am I doing to get involved?
Right.
Yeah. My big thing is trying to set up mentoring programs in schools. Could have put a plug in there. I spent a lot of my time. People say, I thought you retired, because there's two words that don't appear in the Bible: retire and oops. Those do not appear in the Bible. And so one of the things I'm trying to do is get the local church, and I call it the dangerous church, make it a dangerous church. What does that mean? Dangerous in that they're getting involved in the community. Dangerous in that they're saying, we have solutions for these situations. We have solutions for homelessness. We have solutions for all that. But the church has been kind of in retreat. And I said, boy, when you start getting out of that retreat mode and start getting into the attacking the gates, which we're supposed to do, by the way, the gates of hell, all of a sudden we become a dangerous church. And so part of this book talks about, as one of the heroes is a member of the dangerous church. And he's not liked by a lot of people because he asks some very uncomfortable questions. And, I tell people, it says, well done, good and faithful servant, not well done, good and faithful spectator. Right. And so part of these books, hopefully, is to get us away from sitting on couches and being spectators, not to make people feel guilty, just to say, this is what we're supposed to do. This is a compelling why of the Bible, to rescue and restore God's lost children. And I woke up in the middle of the night with that. Yeah.
Well, Jerry, it's the parable of the talents. What did you do with the talents? Did you bury it? Did you invest it? That's what we're going to be held to account, right?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And later on, it talks about that. And that's where the well done, good and faithful servant comes from, for the people that actually take what they're given. People say, well, I can't do much. I said, everybody can mentor a child if they want to. There's a whole bunch of programs. Just one lunchtime, one time a week, go in and to a public school and work with a child. Or there's so many other things I don't want to get into too much you can do, but that's my mentoring is kind of my big thing, because I'm a maximizer of people and organizations. And this country has so much potential that we haven't even looked at yet. And that's part of the challenge in here. And it says, we've got to watch for artificial intelligence. We have to watch for what I call bigism, which is where big companies, big schools, big this, instead of the individual. The wonderful thing about the Constitution was it believed in the individual. It believed and it's set up for the individual person, small guys like us, that we could do something if we just step forward. And if we can do that and get empowered. So that's a major part of both of these books also, talking about how we can transform America in the right way.
Well, and I'm like you, Jerry. I just so believe in God's creation. C.S. Lewis said that he never met a mere mortal. So when you consider, right? I mean, it is such an honor, that you come in contact with a fellow human being on their journey and their experience that can enlarge and reinforce, your beliefs and your understanding. To me, that's what I love about doing this radio show, because it gives me an opportunity to talk to, people like yourself and, share these ideas and motivate our audience and our viewers so that they themselves can add to the proposition, not just be takers, right?
That's right. Yeah. Givers, not takers. There's some really good research on there, by the way. A guy named Grant wrote a book called Givers and Takers, or Give and Take. And he asked people who they thought would get ahead most, takers or matchers or givers. And they said, takers for sure. And his research found out that they were half right. Sometimes sometimes givers don't get, but he found out half the time the givers were on top if they gave the right way. They gave in a way that they weren't taken advantage of, but they gave in a way just not expecting anything back in return. And he was shocked. He was shocked that it ended up that the givers ended up being the people that were the most successful in life. And yet, if you think about it, who do you try to help?
And probably, Jerry, I'll tell you, they were the happiest as well. And so we're going to let people, we're going to give everybody a Salem moment. Let them chew on that thought, because that's a golden gem and a great way to wrap things up with you. Jerry Willbur has been our guest. Jerry, the author, is the author of the book True Blue Revolution. And Jerry, where can they be in touch with you? You got a website that they can connect with you at?
Yes, Jerry Willbur, and it's WILLBUR. A lot of people put only one L, jerrywillbur.com. And they can get that. And of course, they can, I hate to put a plug in for Amazon, but they can get the books on Amazon. And the newest one just came out. Matter of fact, we don't even have a press release for it, but it's now available, The Rise of the True Blue Rebellion. And it follows up on the True Blue Revolution. And so they're available. I'm sure you can get them at Barnes & Noble and other places. So
exactly. And we'll link it on our website too, at BillMartinezShow.com. Well, that's a wrap for us. Thank you so much, Jerry Willbur. You're awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate this time.
Appreciate it.
For more information and to be a part of this mighty Martinez movement to return to God and to save our country, you know where to go, BillMartinezShow.com. May God bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. Go and be blessed beyond your imagination. Thanks for being with us.
There you go. Amen.